Welcome to our webinar Wednesday. Today is April 26th. We're going to be talking about the basics of Kahoot in terms of how to navigate the platform, how to create Kahoots, and how to host them effectively. I introduced myself earlier, but we're just going to do a quick round of introductions again for anybody that joined in late. My name is Zainab. I am a customer success manager with Kahoot, and I have Galilea with me who will be moderating chat for you today. Galilea was a counterpart of mine on the customer success team, but is now on the account management team and will be the person to speak with if you're interested in figuring out the best fit for your Kahooting needs. We have 97% of the Fortune 500 using Kahoot right now, and we're very eager to have you on board with us as well. I'm going to start off by asking you, do you currently have a Kahoot subscription? Just to get an idea of how many of us are already using the platform and how many are completely new to it. Okay, let's see. So 82% of you already have a Kahoot subscription, and the 18% that doesn't will make sure that you love using Kahoot by the end of the conversation, and then Gali can help you get set up. How well do you know Kahoot right now? Have you just heard the name? Have you played Kahoot before? Have you hosted, or have you done both? Okay, so we have 7 participants who've only heard the name. We have 49% of our participants who've played Kahoot, 22% have hosted, and there's a 12% who've already done both. And I'm very, very happy to see that you've still joined in to learn more about Kahoot and how it works. Now, what does Kahoot do? Kahoot makes learning awesome, which is also the motto of the business. So it allows you to engage your audience during trainings, meetings, presentations, in a number of different ways. It will let you engage them for whatever purpose you need. So it could be either testing knowledge or collecting their feedback or just sharing information with them. Kahoot offers 10 different kinds of question types for different purposes, and you can engage your audience throughout a meeting, very similar to what we're having today. So today is a really good example. I am hosting a training. I'm doing it through Kahoot. I'm going to show you a bunch of slides, and I'm going to do a live demo of the platform, which shows how easy it is to navigate outside the live game, go into other parts of your computer. You can have different tools open. You can have, an Excel file open, an internal portal or a CMS or an LMS system open, and then you can come back to the Kahoot game. We're also going to look at how easy it is to incorporate questions within the engagement. So every now and then, instead of pointing to someone and asking them to answer or having them raise their hand and be put on the spot and answer, you ask everyone a question and they all put it in the Kahoot response and you see it on the screen. So we have 10 different question types and 10 different PowerPoint style slide layouts that enable you to build your presentation or training inside of Kahoot. You can, of course, always just import your PowerPoint or Canva, Google Slide, Keynote, wherever you've built your presentation, you can always just import it. But if you're wanting to build out something new, you can just do it directly within Kahoot. Once you have your presentation or training or learning material, and you know what kind of questions you want to ask, you've put that all inside Kahoot, you can decide whether you want to host the game live, which is what we're doing right now. We're all present in real time. We're going to interact and engage with the content together. Or you can assign it, which is a self-paced engagement, which means that you don't have to coordinate a big meeting with everybody present in it, and you don't have to have them block out a chunk of their time on the calendar. You can send it out to them as an email or a link or just a message on MS Teams or Slack. And whenever the audience or your team members, whoever is needing to go through that information, whenever they have time, they can click on that link, go through the presentation and questions, and then up until a due date Everyone will be able to go through it, and you'll be able to see a final podium that you can share. So it's a really good way of connecting your team across different time zones, across different locations, different departments, without needing to coordinate huge meetings where everyone needs to be present. And then if you are deciding to host a game live, if you've looked at Kahoot before, since we saw that there's a huge percentage of audience who's already used Kahoot either as a player or a host, I'm pretty confident that most of you would have experienced the classic mode or the team mode of playing Kahoot, which is, kind of what we're doing today. We're doing classic mode. We're all logging in, we put in our names, and we're going to be playing against each other. So the scoreboard will have our individual names, and then we'll compete for the top 5 positions on the podium. But there are also 5 new game modes that are available in Kahoot. So if you are starting a live game and you're wanting to engage an audience in real time, Kahoot offers so many more options now than it did before. And every one of these game modes has a different pedagogical value. It's a different way of learning. It helps you enforce the same content and information in a variety of different ways. For example, with Color Kingdom, Kahoot takes all of the questions that you have in that Kahoot file, and it continues to repeat it over and over. So as a game player, what you're experiencing is you answer a bunch of questions, and as soon as you get an answer right, you're able to go back to this game board, and you put tiles on the game board to take over more space on the empire, and your kingdom can overthrow another kingdom to win. So that's the game experience. But what's happening as the learner is that you're revising that information. The information is repeating, the same questions are being asked over and over. If you didn't know the answer the first time, you will by the time you leave the game. It helps with memorization and rapid recall. So each one of these game modes has a different value to how you can learn, and using a variety of different learning modes helps your learners learn better. So there's the classic and there's the team mode for live engagement, but I just want to highlight that there are a bunch of new ways to play Kahoot as well. So it's showtime. I am going to hop over to my Kahoot platform. So just going over to the other screen, and here is my Kahoot account. Now, what I'll notice here, the first thing that I would want everyone to look at as users of Kahoot is that you have a couple of tiles here on the top left corner. And the first tile is my personal space. The second tile and all the ones after it are different company accounts or team spaces. These are different subscriptions that I'm a part of. The personal space is completely cut off from any of the company spaces. When you get the account, it's initially these letters. So they're initials for your name or the company account name. But I've gone ahead and clicked on my profile icon and added an image for myself, as well as a logo for my company account. So these are two very different spaces. If you have a single individual license, then you don't need to worry about this. But if you have a team license, like a 360 Pro or a 360 Spirit Premium, then this is going to be a separate space for you. So for you to take any actions, use the premium features, have the higher player limits, you want to make sure you hop in here, the second space. And then your homepage is mostly a newsfeed of whatever's happening in the account. And you can go to the Discover tab as a new user or even as a veteran to find content that's already made and available for you to use. The Discover tab is full of materials that have been created either by other users like you and I, who made something and decided to make it public, or created by our premium partners over here, who want to enable learning, and they create materials. They're not necessarily about their own organization, but they're on different subjects using the tools that they have. For example, if you look at Disney, they're going to be teaching you about different things, about cars, about empathy and compassion, but they're doing it using the Disney characters. Very similar with Marvel. It teaches you about a lot of different things like earth sciences, for example. But then someone at Marvel sits down and makes the content and uses their tools, uses their characters for teaching people about science and engineering and about life sciences and about the history of New York, and who else to teach us better than Spider-Man? But that's just an example. If you have something specific in mind that you're looking for, you can go to the Discover tab and search for that. For example, if I'm hosting a social happy hour, let's say on Friday for my team, and I want to do a trivia, I'll go in and search for trivia. And here is a bunch of material that's already available, and I can just pick it up and start using it. For example, this general trivia game has been played by 4.8 million people before me. The sports trivia game has been played by 2.2 million players before me. And you have several other options in here. So you can search through this, look for the perfect game, and either play it live as it is or create a copy of it and customize it to your needs and then play it. For all new users, I encourage you to go in here. Even if you don't need to use any of these games, play through them for inspirational purposes. Look at how they've added media, what kind of question types they're using, how the game flows. And once you feel comfortable in, okay, I know how Kahoot feels, you can go into the Create button and create your own Kahoot. You can start from one of our pre-existing templates, or you can start from scratch. For all new users specifically, I encourage you to look through all of the templates, at least the ones that feel like they're going to be useful for you. For example, things like icebreaker games, or things like a new hire training, which is a good format for a training. It has a combination of slides and questions, and it offers prompts for what to add next. So it's a really good way of learning how to build a really effective Kahoot. I'm going to start from scratch just so I can show you some of the very basic options. There are 4 main elements that I like pointing out inside the Kahoot creator. The first thing is simple, just the settings. What is my Kahoot called? What's going to be the thumbnail image? The name is player facing. It does display on the screen when you start the game. So you want to make sure it's something that you're okay with the player seeing. And then the description is internal. So if you need to have a description of what the Kahoot is for, you can add it here. And where are you going to save the Kahoot? If you save a Kahoot in your My folder, then the My folder is a personal space. So your My folder is a personal space, and it is accessible only to you. But if you save a Kahoot in your team space, it can be either in the team folder or the My folder, depending on who you want to give access to. If you save it in the team folder, everyone in the organization that has a license and is not limited will have access to it. Great way to collaborate, great way to make sure that other team members can see your materials and work with you on creating them, and also be able to use them for their own audience. This is where you paste the link for whatever video you want to play in the lobby. The lobby was the space where everyone was joining in, where we had the QR code and the game pin, and we were waiting for people to join in the game. If you don't want to put in a video, you can also just pick a music. I'm not sharing any music right now because I'm going to be doing a lot of talking. But when we have questions pop up on the screen, I am going to turn on the volume so you can hear the music. And I encourage you to have music in the game. It just adds to the overall excitement and really sets the mood for competitiveness and fun. So those are your settings. The next step would be, what am I creating? Am I creating a presentation or a training? Am I sharing any form of information? If I am, I can go ahead and either add slides within Kahoot, so I can build the Kahoot out completely within the platform. So this can be a classic slide. This can be a big media slide. I can insert media. I can choose from within the integrations for Getty Image and Unsplash, or my personal favorite, our Giphy integration. Love having these in here. And then also I can have stickers. I can embed videos from YouTube or Vimeo, or I can just upload images from my own computer. And it looks kind of sad right now with all the gray. So I can go and select my theme. I can either build a theme for my account that I can use or other team members can use. It can have my own branding, a completely customized backdrop. In fact, I do have some saved. There we go. So if I go into themes, I have these saved themes already. This is an actual picture of all of us here in the Austin team sitting through a training, and I've added that as a backdrop. I can also go in and add my own company logo and have a more company customized feel than just the standard Kahoot backgrounds. But if I wanted, I also have access to a bunch of Kahoot backgrounds that are created by our team and made available to your accounts. The one that I'm using in the live Kahoot right now is right here for spring. We also have summer and autumn and connected with whatever is happening in the world. Like the Black History Month we had just end, and then Patrick's Day happened last month. So you can pick from whatever's going on, or just have a standard business theme or create your own personal company themes. So you've looked through the settings, you've decided what the theme is, what it's going to look like, and you're now going to go ahead and add either information through slides, or you can import a slide from your computer. You can import any file that is a maximum of 80 megabits or 100 slides, and you can have any of these formats. Once you upload it, each slide will be converted into an image of itself. So it's not editable once it comes into Kahoot, but it is a very high resolution image that looks really good on the screen. It's covered completely end to end on your screen and is a very good immersive experience. Once I've added a few slides, let's go ahead and do that. I now know that, okay, this is the information that I'm going to be sharing. So let's imagine this is my opening slide. This is my second slide with some content, and then I can have a question. Then I can have a few more slides, move stuff around, and have another question. I would say typically have a question pop up for every 10, 15 minutes of speaking at the very least, but you can also make that decision based on how long your meeting is. So keeping your audience engaged is going to be a lot easier when you have questions popping up, and they don't have to be something that is testing their knowledge. It can also just be something that engages them by asking them for their opinion. So if I can choose questions from this lot, the top 5 have the concept of right versus wrong, and there are points associated with it if you get the answer right. The bottom 5 are for just hearing the audience out. So there are no points for it. There's no concept of right versus wrong, but they do get an opportunity to share their input. And everything that they say gets recorded in the system. So after every game, there's a report that's created automatically, and all of the input from the players will be stored in the report. So I had my settings, I added slides, I added questions, I chose what theme I was going to have, and now I can go ahead and save my Kahoot. Before I save that, I'm going to do a quick overview of what these question types do. And if you have any questions about how can I use this, or how can I engage audience in a certain way, feel free to put those in the chat. The quiz type question is pretty self-explanatory. You can have anywhere between 2 to 6 options, and you will have to inform the system what the correct option is. For example, where is Kahoot's headquarters? And here are my options. This is the correct response. But we also have an Austin office. We also have an office in Copenhagen. So I can have multiple options, but I tell the system what the right answer is by clicking on this box. In case there were multiple correct answers, I am able to choose multiple options. These options can also be images. They don't always have to be words. Images can come from our integration. For example, if I wanted to say Austin, this one's a pretty iconic picture of our town. And then I could also just import or upload that image from my computer. I can choose how long you have to answer this question, anywhere between 5 seconds to 4 minutes. Standard points are 1,000, double points are 2,000. You can also choose for the system to have no points at all. And here's the single versus multi-select option. If you switch over to a different question type, your options transfer over automatically, making it very easy to visualize what questions are going to look like in different ways or question types, and then making a decision. I encourage you to please use a combination of multiple question types. Use all the question types that you have available. I notice a lot of the times that most users use just the basic ones, which is the MCQ, the multiple choice quiz, and the true or false. And it does make sense because all questions can be asked in that format, but they're not always as fun. So if you want to make your engagement more fun, have them use the slider. Ask a question, any question that has a numbers-based answer. For example, how many participants do we have on this call today? So if we were looking at the number of participants, the correct answer is we have 52. And then my range could be anywhere from 20 to 100. If I want people to give me the exact answer, I'm going to have no answer margin. But if I want to be a little bit lenient, so people can have earned some points, even if they're a little bit off of the response, they'll get points all the way up to 60, or even if someone said as low as 44, because I have a medium answer margin. I could even have a maximum answer margin, and whatever they say will be considered correct. They'll still be told what the right answer was, but they will earn points even if they are very far off from the correct response. So you can use the slider, you can use the puzzle for question types where there is a process involved, or chronological order, preference, larger versus smaller, because this is going to appear jumbled to the audience and they'll need to put it back in the right order. On the collect opinion side, polls look visually very similar to quizzes. You've already experienced a poll type question while playing this Kahoot with me. They offer immediate quantification of the player responses. If you didn't want to limit your players to the question options that you have, for example, if I asked which chocolate do you like, and I put in the options as Kit Kat and Mars, but what if you don't like either? What if you like Snickers? If you want to leave it open-ended so people can put in their own opinions, you can use word cloud. If it's a short response, word cloud is great because it's 20 characters. If it's a longer response that you need, you can use the open-ended question type because that offers them 250 characters. And this is great for capturing the thoughts of your audience and see what they're thinking, feeling, and what feedback they want to offer you. It doesn't quantify though. So it's a very subjective response. You'll need to read through all of the responses to kind of figure out what the most popular response was. Polls are great because they offer quantification. Word cloud and open-ended are great because they offer the ability to hear the audience out. But what if you could have both? And that's what Brainstorm does. Brainstorm lets you combine the power of poll as well as word cloud and open-ended. So you can ask a question and then say how many options or ideas should your players be able to enter. Let's imagine 2. Once they've given in their responses, so they've offered you the ideas, they've said, okay, for example, what are you going to use Kahoot for as soon as you get your license? So one person says, my first idea is training, and my second idea is quizzes or post-training evaluations. I can submit both of those. So does everybody else. They appear on the screen like these cards. In a real life training room, this would look like writing stuff down on your sticky notes and then going to the front of the room and sticking it on a whiteboard. So then everybody can see it. And the system does have its own language AI, so similar words are grouped together. This is just sample data like vegetable names. I mean, they could have used candy names, would have made me happier, or dessert names, but no, they're vegetables. But you can mix those together and create larger groups or larger cards with all of these similar ideas in the same spot. Once you've grouped them, this is a really great opportunity to just talk through them and see, okay, so, all of these people are talking about doing training through Kahoot. All of these individuals are talking about doing presentations or all hands meeting or their monthly sales meeting through Kahoot. And then you have these individuals wanting to do a group of evaluations through Kahoot. So you have an idea of what people are wanting to do. And if you need to make a decision as to what happens first, you can ask everyone to vote. So now they've been able to give their own ideas, but they also get to vote and decide what the most popular idea is. The system will immediately count the votes and show you what the winning input was. There we go. This one earns the gold. So those are all of our question types in detail. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here and really quickly show you that you're able to once you've saved or once you've created your Kahoot, you're able to decide where it goes. So my folder and team folders, we talked about it when we were looking at the settings. The team folder is where everyone in your account has access. You can start the Kahoot live or assign it. If I hit start, this takes me to the page where I decide how to play the Kahoot, classic versus team mode, or all of these additional game modes. And we looked at this control panel at the start of the game as well. If I don't want to start the game live, I can assign it, which creates a self-paced Kahoot, kind of just like having a link for the Kahoot. I can have a deadline or no deadline, and I can choose how long they have. Is the game timed? Do I want to capture their email address? I just customize it based on what I need. And what it does is it creates an empty report. And I can add people. I can send them the QR code. I can send them the link or assign it through email. I can add these learners and say, okay, all of these individuals need to go through this Kahoot game. So that invitation is sent to them through email, and they're listed here at the bottom. Now, imagine the due date's coming up and I come back here and I see, well, they haven't even started yet. I can send them a reminder individually, or just click on this button at the top and everybody will get a reminder. So it makes it very easy to make sure that everyone is on top of the assignments that they've been given. Anything that I would typically send through an email, because, I don't know if they read the email or not. And if they did, I don't know how well they understood it. So anything that I would typically send through an email would be, for me, an immediate switch over to Kahoot. I would make a Kahoot with whatever process update or new information I'm wanting to share. I'll add a couple of slides about it, and then a couple of questions about the content, and send it as an assignment, because that way I'll be able to see how many people went through it, because I can see whether they started or not, and then I can see individual player performance. So if I just hop into another report that has real content over here, so I'll be able to see every player's individual performance and exactly what responses they shared and how well they did in certain segments. I can also see based on questions. So for example, here, only 82% of the audience got this answer right, which means that there is still room for improvement. I can either change the way that the material was explained, or I can change the way that the question is asked, but it lets me have insight into how well the players are doing, the learners are doing, and how well the content itself is doing. So now we've taken a look at how to create a Kahoot. We know how to navigate through the platform. We know we can host it either live or assigned. I'm gonna hop back into the Kahoot game. One quick heads up I'll offer is, if you're playing on your cell phone, wake up your device, move around, make sure that it's reconnecting. You might even see a button for reconnecting on the device right now. When your laptop or your tablet or your cell phone goes to sleep and the screen goes dark, there is a chance that you might get disconnected from the game. In most cases, it will automatically reconnect when you wake the device back up again. But it's good to give a heads up so that when you move on to the next slide and a question is asked, your players aren't stuck waking up their devices. So we've had the time to wake up our device and reconnect to the game, and I'm going to ask a question next. So here's a quiz type question for you. Self-paced Kahoots would be a great tool for what? Well, almost everyone got it right, and you're absolutely correct. Self-paced Kahoots can be a really good tool for all of these things. Before someone comes to a training, you can evaluate where the skill level currently is. After a training, you can evaluate how the training went, or if they've really absorbed the information. And if you don't want to have a trainer schedule a giant meeting and have everybody come and engage live, great for non-trainer-led knowledge updates. And here's a scoreboard, because this was the first question that had points. Now you'll notice that multiple people answered the question correctly, but Kim is leading. And then there's Sherry and Audrey as close second and third. Any guesses as to why one person scored higher than the other, even though they all had the correct response? You can throw your guesses in chat. And I will tell you why it is after this other question that I'm going to ask you. How many question types does Kahoot offer? So I see that 35 people answered and I'm not getting a lot of new responses. I also have this little skip button at the top that allows me to skip the rest of the timer whenever needed. It's a really good tool if you're running behind schedule or if you want to save time or you're simply not getting any more responses. Go ahead and skip the button so that you can run down the rest of the timer or even run down the rest of the animations on the screen. And 10 was the correct response. A lot of people got it right. And I looked at the chats. You're absolutely right. The speed of the response is exactly why some people scored higher than the others. The faster you answer, the more points you will earn because the points will decrease linearly over time. It is a really good way of making sure that people are paying close attention. From a game perspective, it increases competitiveness, but from a learner perspective, it makes sure that they are paying attention. So if they're closely listening to what you're saying and they're paying attention to the questions, they'll be able to answer faster. I see that there have been a lot of questions in chat and Gally's been answering away. Thank you so much, Gally, for providing so many details on all of these questions. Is there anything else that you'd like to ask? And I'm happy to turn on the audio for you so you can ask everybody.
We did have a hand raised from Guadalupe Cervantes early on, but I'm not sure if they still have a question. Their hand was raised. So
the hand went down.
The hand went down. So we would assume that the question is no longer there.
I do see that Kimberly's asking how you have the music playing for everyone. So I have this little music bar here at the bottom. And what's happening here is I'm able to control the volume of it. The one thing that most people kind of struggle with is the tool that they're using for the meeting. So with Zoom, I can go into the more settings on my control panel, and I have to select share computer sound. With WebEx and MS Teams, you typically have to select that option before you start sharing your screen, but music plays for everybody when you're sharing your computer sound. And you can control what the music is from this control panel. So you can have the lobby music picked. And then you can also control the volume, which again, I kept really low during our conversation today because I was going to be doing a lot of speaking. But in any game where there are a lot of questions or it's mostly like a competitive thing, having the music turned on makes such a huge difference.
Someone asks, Heather asks, are Kahoots that we create private by default?
Yes, ma'am. Everything that you create is limited either just to you or the organization, depending on whatever you chose in the last time you picked the settings. But you have to explicitly go in there and choose for something to be public if you want to make it public. And for most organizations, like on our enterprise plans, that option can be completely removed to make sure that even if someone wanted to make Kahoots public, they're not able to. I also see another question about this course being repeated on another date. And I think that is on my next. Oh, wait, I will ask you this question and then show you the rest of the slides. But yes, this does repeat. Here's a feedback question for you. How well do you feel you know Kahoot now? Because I know I asked in the beginning how well you knew Kahoot.
This is a pretty good question for you, Z. Mora asks, what is the biggest mistake you have seen people make with Kahoot when using it for audience engagement?
I think the biggest one that I personally, and this is everybody's opinion, right? But my opinion on this is just not utilizing the tools that you already have in your subscription mostly the ability to have slides and questions within the same Kahoot. I see people presenting through PowerPoint and then starting the Kahoot game and then going back to the PowerPoint, or waiting till the very end of the day to do the Kahoot and not making use of it throughout the training that they're offering. Which you have the tool already, and it always allows for PowerPoint imports or building slides, so why not? So that's one where they're not using both kinds of engagements within Kahoot. And then the second is just not using all the question types that are available.
Yeah.
One less commonly seen issue, but does happen, is making a Kahoot that is too long. I
Yeah.
mean, I love Kahoot and I use it for everything, but there can be too much of a good thing. So having a Kahoot game that's just way too long is not going to be fun either. Which doesn't mean that you shouldn't have trainings that are long running through Kahoot. I've personally been part of over 3-hour sessions that had different presentations, different presenters, and everyone was just presenting their part, asking questions, moving on to the other person. And it flowed really smoothly, and the game was well connected for throughout that period. But I'm mostly talking about just having question after question after question, without a presentation section, and having it be too long. So not using the presentation tool, not using all the question types, and making it too long, I would say, are some of the worst Kahoot mistakes I've seen.
I agree. I think definitely not fully leveraging the power of the subscription, no matter what type of subscription that you have. Each subscription tier has different features, but yeah, I completely agree. Not making use of everything in your toolbox is usually the biggest mistake. Also, I feel like most people maybe just sometimes tend to fully rely on the Kahoot, so they'll just be quiet as facilitators during a live session, and that can also, in my opinion, be a little bit of a missed opportunity. But yeah.
So the question that I was trying to answer before I clicked on next and asked the question was, Atlas asked if this course will be repeated on another date, and yes, it will be. So I have to stop doing that. We have a webinar Wednesdays. So every fourth Wednesday of each month, we will be doing the same webinar. I have a question here for you. What is one key takeaway from today's session? Anything new that you have learned, any new idea that you have, or something that you didn't know about before? Or it could be, oh, we were having this event and Kahoot might be a good fit for it. Anything at all. While
Oh,
everyone's answering that. Yeah, yes, Kelly?
I was gonna say follow up on the great kind of segment that you gave on best practices on not utilizing Kahoot for maximal engagement. Cindy asks, how long is too long pertaining to making a long Kahoot? So I would love to hear your input on that for them.
I think that's really subjective. Like, remember when we had the gathering in Oslo and we had like the 3-hour Kahoot where everyone was presenting through Kahoot and we were answering questions and then going back to the next segment.
Yeah.
It didn't even feel like it was a long Kahoot, but
Oh yeah.
everyone's presentation was through the Kahoot game. And it had like 300-400 participants in there and it didn't feel too long.
Yeah.
So I think it really just depends on the kind of engagement that you have. I feel like if it's just questions, if it's a quiz, or an evaluation, because it needs to be done in one go when it's live, or even when it's assigned, if you can't stop in the middle, you can't take a break in the middle. So whatever is a reasonable amount of time for your subject matter. If I'm doing a compliance training and I have to take a Kahoot and it has to be 40 consecutive minutes of me sitting down, that might be a bit too much. But if it involves reading or hearing from someone and then answering a few questions, then 40 minutes really isn't a lot at all. All of us have been here for 47 minutes already. So it really just depends on the kind of engagement. You'll have to be the judge for how long is too long for your content.
I agree. And I would say just as long as it's make sure you're having the interactive checkpoints often, that can often make, like you said, a long session feel quick pace and fast. So I don't think it's necessarily a matter of too long. It's a matter of like how you sprinkle in and pepper in all the elements that we're discussing today. But yeah, thank you, Z.
You're welcome. I also see Astrid's asked if how to kind of manipulate the pre-created content or the ready-to-play content in the Discover tab. So the Discover tab, because the content belongs to someone, whether it's one of our premium partners or a regular user who's created it and made it public, you're not going to be able to edit the original file. But for majority of that material, there will be an option to duplicate it and then edit the copy of it. There are some materials that don't allow duplication. I know Disney has a few games that they don't allow for duplication on. There is a lot of material on Access Pass, which is our paid content subscription, that doesn't allow duplication. But majority of the free content will let you duplicate it, and you can edit the copy to make modifications based on whatever you need. Heather asked, how do you have 4 response options as this current question versus the 4 or 6 in the system? If you mean 4 response options on the quiz type question, then it comes with 4, and it basically is just going to be as many options as you type into. So if you leave a box blank, it will not turn up as an option on the final question. And then also there's a little box at the very bottom of the creator screen that lets you add more options. So you can go from 4 to 6. Let's look at what some of the key takeaways from today's session are. The new modes, the different game modes. So a lot of people didn't know about that. And I know a lot of people don't know about that. So I really want to encourage you all to try it out. There is a YouTube video that we have. Callie, if you could find really quickly the link to it, it's called New Game Modes for Kahoot, and it's on our YouTube. And if we can put that in chat for you, it explains how to use all of the new game modes. And it's a full demo of each one of them. So you can watch how each one of them is played, what it feels like, and then decide to use it for your teams. Using different question types, being creative with the available options. So someone says, now I know how many types of questions are available. And then you can integrate PowerPoint into Kahoot. The one thing that I didn't mention is that you can also integrate Kahoot into PowerPoint. So if you like using PowerPoint and if you want to keep that as your main tool, we don't want to force you to use Kahoot. So you go through your PowerPoint and then just integrate Kahoot in there as an add-in or extension. And in one of the slides in your PowerPoint file, Kahoot can just live in there. And whenever you reach that slide, let's imagine it's slide number 10, you go next, next, next on your slideshow. You reach slide number 10, you start the Kahoot game. You play through the Kahoot game. The entire game happens within that slide. It ends, you see the podium, and then you move on to slide number 11. So there's that integration that's already available. So you are able to keep PowerPoint as your main tool if wanted. Different types of questions, do Kahoots throughout your training session. Brainstorm allows you to combine word cloud and open-ended, kind of have the power of both. Adding images to answer area, having a better understanding of navigating the creation screen for Kahoot. Love that you can import slides. Yay! Don't make the Kahoot have too many questions, using different questions. So I think one of the biggest takeaways from today are using the different question types and new game modes, which is amazing. I am so glad that that's what you guys are picking up from the conversation. And this is the slide that I was trying to get to when I kept asking you all questions. Sorry about that. But this is the registration page for our deep dive webinar. So we do 2 types of webinars every month. The second Wednesday is the deep dive, where we talk about a specific use case and go into detail on how to use Kahoot really effectively for a specific purpose. And then on the 4th Wednesday of every month, we do the Kahoot 101, which is this class. So it happens every month on repeat, and you can join as many times as you want. You can join whenever, like whichever month you want to join in. The next deep dive is going to be about hosting awesome all hands meetings, or town halls as some companies call them. And this is going to be on May 10th at 9 a.m. Central. So the deep dive happens at 9, the Kahoot 101 happens at 11. You can go to our website to register for this, and we are looking forward to having a lot of you there to learn how you can make your meetings really effective with Kahoot. And this one's going to be specifically showcasing where multiple departments need to offer updates, or multiple individuals need to participate in the presentation of content.
I agree. I also was going to say we have an extra webinar this month the Kahoot at Work meetup.
Yes.
And that's on actually tomorrow, Thursday. So I left the link for it in the chat. It's free to register as well. It's a 3-hour block. You don't have to stay for the 3 hours, but we have different keynote speakers lined up from Microsoft, from Zoom, all going to be discussing different ways on how to impact remote learning and in this hybrid kind of new environment that we find ourselves in. But yeah, that's my little plug for the Kahoot at Work meetup.
It's really good to at least be a part of the meetup for the times when the clients are sharing their experience, because it's so good to see how people are actually using Kahoot. So what is the podium? Let's see who won. Melly on the 3rd position, TM8014 on the 2nd position, and the first one goes to Sherry. Congratulations. And then we also have the runner-ups, Heather and Nairobi.